So we are starting with a look at the controversial decision to cancel the invitation for Michael Smerconish to speak at Dickinson's graduation. The issue? Student protesters isolating some sentences from his 2004 book where he wrote about a policy after 9/11 that limited how passengers were screened. They said he supported racial profiling. He said it was taken out of context and exposed a flaw in our security. The students had an encampment protesting the war in Gaza, but also included a demand that Smerconish get removed as commencement speaker, and that's what happened. Here now to discuss the fallout and more is CNN anchor, Sirius XM radio host, sometimes a graduation speaker, Michael Smerconish. Hi, Michael. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for inviting me, Joe. I appreciate it.
All right, so what was your first reaction when I did reach out to you? I think it was last Friday. I sent you the pictures. I told you this was getting more serious, that this protest actually involved you, and they really did want to cancel your speech.
Total disbelief. I mean, I was shocked and disbelieving when you brought this to my attention, because I had heard from the university president several days prior, essentially saying to me, there's an issue here on campus, but don't worry, I know you and I know your work, and we have it handled. I wanted to make you aware of it. So I was completely caught flat-footed on Saturday morning when the word was official, and I thought that it was a hysterical decision made on distorted information about both me and my work. And let's underscore what you said from 20 years ago. I've written 7 books during the course of my career. This was the first of them. I've delivered 4 commencement addresses since this book was written. And so, yes, total disbelief.
Yeah. I mean, and like you said, it's 20 years ago. Since that time, you have really taken over the middle, meaning independent thought, hearing both sides, approaching things fairly. I mean, that's your niche right now. So what did it feel like to be judged by some folks who probably don't know much about you at all, like you were an ideologue, like maybe you're Tucker Carlson?
Right. Well, that's what offends me the most, because I've been cast in a false light. And I mean, I'm here with you fighting for my reputation because the disinvitation by Dickinson is just a send key away. It's going to live out there. And so I made very clear that, and I spent a lot of time on it, that I recreated the record, which was not easy because I had to go back 20 years in time and reread the book and look at the files and remind myself of how it all began. And then I put out a written statement because I want that to speak for me. What your listeners need to know is that this all began with my attentive awareness of the 9/11 Commission hearings. And in a particular hearing, I listened to 9/11 Commissioner John Lehman asking Secretary Condoleezza Rice a question where he said to her, are you aware of the fact that there was and remains a policy from the Department of Transportation that doesn't allow more than 2 individuals of a particular ethnic extraction to be singled out at any one time for secondary screening because that would be perceived as discriminatory? And she had no knowledge and said nothing of consequence about it. But I was at home watching and I thought, what the heck is he talking about? And so I interviewed him on my radio program and I said,
Right.
Mr. Secretary, I heard that. It didn't get much attention. And his explanation was confirmation of what he'd said in the hearing. And then I just was like a dog on a bone. I continued to pursue it. He was right in what he said. It was backed up by the presidents of U.S. airlines. But it wasn't a big story until I wrote the book. And I wanted to be a whistleblower about that policy. Last thought, if I may, Joel.
Yeah.
Think about the practical implication. It means that on September 11, if you knew that here were 5 individuals hell-bent on terrorism, but they had similarities like Secretary Lehman was discussing, you couldn't have singled them out for secondary screening. That would have been ludicrous then, and it remains ludicrous today.
That reaction you just gave was very thorough. However, your initial reaction was disbelief, and you did, to your credit, you put the initial op-ed from the Dickinson, the school paper, on your website. You didn't run from it. And then you talked about it. But you didn't talk about it like you just did. You talked about it kind of like in disbelief. Where is this coming from? This was 20 years ago. The students and the administration pointed to that initial reaction as part of their reasoning for canceling you. They printed that. Looking back, should that have been handled maybe a little bit differently then?
Oh, I wish that in my initial response to it, I had laid out the record, but there was just no way. I thought this is serious and
Right.
that this will be taken serious. I thought for sure the university president and the administrators would be the adults in the room, that certainly After all, they invited me to be their commencement speaker. Surely they knew in the press release that recognized my achievement, they identified my books and all of my work. Like, surely they knew better. But no, in the end, they didn't. To answer your question, I certainly wish that I would have addressed it when it was first brought to my attention. I thought I was erring on the side of fairness by even recognizing that there had been a column published in a campus newspaper that was taking me on. I included it in my daily newsletter, which happens to be my passion project. And yes, I was dismissive of it because that's what I thought of it at the time. I'm dismissive of it now for an entirely different set of reasons. I think that it's set such a dangerous precedent, and it's so telling of what's going on in this country where people are just scared to death about the open exchange of ideas.
Well, and that's the saddest part about this. What did happen after this was a swift reaction. You have supporters from across the aisle. In particular, you pointed this out, and I actually brought this to the attention of the Dickinson administration. Two-term former governor, mayor of Philadelphia, head of the DNC, Ed Rendell, wrote a really detailed, thorough letter endorsing you, criticizing this decision. I asked the leadership, based on this and some other fodder out there, do you stand by your decision, and is there anything else that could have been done here? Well, they just stuck by what they said. This was becoming a distraction. They didn't want to do this. Let's put you in the shoes of the Dickinson president. What would you have done in this situation?
Well, first, let me say that the letter to which you're referencing was unsolicited by me. It came from, as you mentioned, former Governor Ed Rendell, and I'm very appreciative of the support. I've also heard from an untold number of alumni and other, I'll just say, Commonwealth leaders. And Joel, I'm not stirring the pot. I get radio callers to my program who say to me, I'm not going to send my kids to Dickinson. I'm not going to write a check to Dickinson. I'm not caught up in any of that. I'm here just trying to set forth the accurate record of what transpired. To answer your question, what should have happened, I think that, frankly, they should have shown more spine, and they should have addressed the students head on with the facts based on what was going on in a post 9/11 world. I mean, these students for whom I have great sympathy because of all that's going on in the world amidst which they are graduating, they weren't born. This is a book that was written in the shadow of September 11. All the proceeds from this book I gave to Pennsylvania's official 9/11 memorial. John Jones knows me and has known my record for a long, long time. So what he should have done, A, was try and use facts and logic. But if he were caught up in the moment amidst this national tumult, what he should have done is come to me and said, Michael, I know better, but may I please give you an opportunity that you can withdraw the invitation, and I will publicly say it's no reflection on your scholarship or record as a journalist. That would have been the honorable thing for him to do.
Well, but here's the thing. By one measurement, the cancellation of you worked. As soon as they made the announcement, you were disinvited. You were not the commencement speaker anymore. That encampment ended. We've seen some encampments end in violence across the country, in vandalism, but getting rid of you was the #1 demand, and right after it happened, they left. Were you surprised at how swift that was?
But wait a minute, Joel. I hope you're not implying that therefore it was worth the sacrificing, the attempted sacrifice of my reputation.
I'm not implying that, but I'm saying if that was his goal.
Under the bus, because if that's what it takes to make them go away, we're willing to do it. My God, what a dangerous message that sends for all of us.
I agree with you, but I'm wondering if this was an easy means to an end, if once they got the official word from the protesters that we will leave, if he's looking around the country at some things that get out of control, if this is all I have to do, maybe that was it. I don't know. We've asked for some more explanation on this. That's not what we got. But my question is this.
Yeah, well, but I think I would say, who then is going to be the commencement speaker of any value next time? I mean, a life quietly led doesn't lead to an invitation to be a commencement speaker. You're always going to be able to parse someone's words, especially, listen, I've had a hot mic in front of me for 34 years. 15 hours a week on radio, an hour on live television, and by the way, on CNN, okay, and on Sirius XM. So, outlets that reach national or international audiences. Is this the best they can do? In the record that I have of 34 years, Joel, there are so many things that I wish I'd never said, but none have animus. None have hatred. They're just plain stupid things about the news of the day. So I'm going to fight tooth and nail on this. I was angry a week ago. I'm more sad now. I'm
Yeah.
kind of getting fired up again as you're making me relive
Not my intent.
what transpired. But this was not right. And I'm heartened by the outpouring that I've heard from so many people who are just stopping me, emailing me, communicating with me, who know that it was
Right.
it was just mishandled.
Let's end with this, because this also goes towards your passion project now, which is the Mingle Project.
Yeah.
You want people from different backgrounds and from different walks of life to get together in an easy atmosphere. Used to be bowling leagues, things like that, Kiwanis clubs. You want people to get together. If you were to have been offered the opportunity to get together with these protesters, to hash this out in a calm and legitimate setting, would you have done that?
I would have done it, and I probably would have shown them the speech. Because the speech now that's not being delivered at Dickinson, my commencement address, it was written.
Yeah.
And it was in line with my mantra of late, which is to say, we don't have enough common experience. We're talking at each other. If we're speaking at all, we're all siloed in our respective ideological bunkers. And what's most lacking in this world today is getting together and mingling. And I was going to encourage them to be like their grandparents certainly were, and their parents probably were, joiners.
Yep.
Kiwanis Club, Sons of Italy, the JCs, the local athletic league. We've got to get back together as a society. How ironic that the guy canceled can't come and give a message of inclusion. Something's wrong with this picture.
And that's why we had you on, to sort of explain this and expose this. And I didn't want you to relive it, but if that's part of the process, then hopefully we get to a good place at the end of this. Michael Smerconish, thank you very much for being on Face the State.
Thank you, Joel. Appreciate it.
All right. All right, folks, we're not done yet. Coming up next, we're talking to a college student, someone who's not protesting the government, but trying to change it from the inside. He actually helped write a bill that's making its way through Harrisburg right now.